Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 24 team selection. I do have a free transfer. We're going to discuss the pros of using that or potentially rolling into Game Week 25. If you're enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump into it. That's right, you don't need to adjust your screens. FPL Raptor has got a green arrow. It was 4 or 5 red arrows in a row. I've had a bit of a disaster lately. Finally got a green arrow, and it was in a week that I took a -8 hit, and to be honest, I was preparing for the worst. And let me remind you, the deadline chat were telling me not to take this -8 hit. Now, some of the players that I brought in did very well. Maybe some of the hit wasn't warranted or didn't actually work out this week at least. And a lot of it was quite lucky, but let's discuss the week. It was 93 points, -8, so 85 points overall in Game Week 23. And that was enough for a small green arrow from 8.3k to 6.2k. Still a little bit lower than where I have been at various points this season, but delighted to hopefully start to get some momentum now. And because I took that -8, the team's actually really well set up, not only for Game Week 24-25, but also moving forward as well. My team's in a really good position, and I'm really happy with the players that I have, and I'm not desperately in need of using any transfers at the moment. So that is why I'm so happy, because normally when I take a big hit like this, it's to set up for the future. But I acknowledge in the week that I take the hit, it's very rare that you normally on something like a -8 or a -12. It's very rare that you get a green arrow that week. So I'm delighted. Like I said, some of the hit worked really well. So the 3 players that I brought in were Kilman, Ødegaard and Saka, and I took out White, Martinelli and Bruno Fernandes. So the 3 players that I took out, White, Martinelli and Fernandes, all blanked. Obviously, Kilman went onto the bench. The reason that it worked out so well is not because of Ødegaard, because Ødegaard actually only got 4 points. It was because I took out White, I had to play Luke Shaw. And I say had to because I didn't really want to, and I actually thought Manchester United would concede. Manchester United conceded almost 2 expected goals. So Luke Shaw was very, very lucky to come away with a 12-pointer. But because I brought in Kilman for White, I actually decided to play Luke Shaw and put him into my starting 11. Obviously, that was massive. And then Saka coming in for Fernandes, getting a 15-pointer was absolutely huge as well. I think I've worked out, including the -8, so taking that into account, I think I'm something like 13 points up from taking the hit just in Game Week 23 alone, which is absolutely brilliant. I'm delighted with that. It pretty much came down to the 3 players of Luke Shaw, Saka, and De Bruyne. Mahrez obviously did quite well, Almiron too. It was a week where, unless you owned 2 or 3 of those players, you were probably on a red arrow. And if you own 3 or 4 of them, such as I've got here, you probably had a really, really good week. And I don't necessarily love weeks like that in FPL where you're just reliant on owning 3 or 4 of the players across the entire database. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Haaland did get 10 points in the end, so massive well done to triple captains. You outscored me in my triple captain in Game Week 20 with Haaland, but you obviously didn't outscore the Rashford triple captains. I don't think a 10-point triple captain is a disaster. We've also got Nketiah, Rashford, and Andreas all got returns, which was really nice. Ødegaard blanked, but I still think that Ødegaard is a better asset to own than Martinelli moving forward. So I am still really happy that I did Martinelli to Ødegaard. It just didn't pay off in this specific week. And then you can see James and Trippier both blanked. And then Ederson, I don't know how to feel about this one. Ederson outscored Kepa, so I'm so happy about that because I was really worried. But it was only by 1 point. Kepa got 2, Ederson got 3. Ederson was a mistake. I will not be buying Ederson again in the future. Like I've said before, though, the fact that I went for Ederson meant that I didn't go for Cancelo, and instead I went for Luke Shaw. So I still think I'm up on points because I've had Luke Shaw since Game Week 17. And Ederson did get me 1 clean sheet at 1 point. But I think, generally speaking, I don't think this necessarily means that I won't do rotating keepers moving forward. I think what it means is I won't do rotating keepers with a premium keeper that doesn't make saves. That's the issue with Ederson. It's not necessarily that I think rotating keepers doesn't work, because sometimes, especially when you're rotating for specific doubles, it does. You just need 2 keepers that have high upside, because Ederson's never normally going to get you more than 5 or 6 points. He actually picked up a yellow card in Game Week 23 as well. So that's the way the team did. Like I said, green arrow, quite a big one up to 6.2k, put me in a really good position for Game Week 24. So let's take a look at the team, discuss if I'm going to use the transfer, and also discuss how my team's starting to look ahead of blank and double Game Week 25. So moving into Game Week 24, I am lining up in a 3-4-3 as I have been for a while now. 101.7 is my team value with 2.2 million in the bank. So my team value has dropped a little bit, but that 2.2 million in the bank is going to be incredibly useful for me, probably in Game Week 25, but we will discuss. There are a couple of transfers that I'm planning where I can pretty much use all of that budget there, and it's going to be very useful. And I've got 1 free transfer. Now, it's going to be no shock that I'm definitely considering and almost likely to potentially roll a transfer this week. However, if it doesn't suit your team to roll and you feel like you can really gain a better fixture for this week, or you can improve your team, or you feel like you're going to be priced out of something going into 25, by all means make a transfer this week. A lot of content creators will suggest rolling. And I think that is a good strategy for most people, just because we've got blank and double game week 25, which is 4 teams blanking, 4 teams doubling. So what I can imagine that for most teams, you've probably got at least 3, 4, 5 transfers that would make more sense in 25 than they would in 24. But like I said, if you feel like you can get ahead, and there are some players that you know that you're going to want for 25, and you are happy risking the fact that they could, of course, get injured and anything else could crop up, then by all means go for it. Let me know down below if you are someone that is planning on using a transfer this week. I don't hate it at all. Most of my decisions this week revolve around the bench and the goalkeeper situation. So let's start with the goalkeeper. This is probably the trickiest one that I've had since sort of game week 17-18 when they also had nice fixtures. I had lined this up as a week to start Ederson. I just don't think that starting Ederson when Kepa has a good fixture makes sense anymore. The reason I say that is Ederson just doesn't make any saves. Occasionally he'll make 1 or 2. Very, very, very rarely will he make 3. He averages under 2 saves per 90. And even if he makes 3 saves, because City score a lot of goals and the likes of De Bruyne and Haaland are really good for bonus, he doesn't always necessarily get bonus even when he does make saves. So let's say that Ederson this week is quite possibly going to get a 6-pointer, but also because Forest are really good at the City ground, that could be potentially a 2-pointer as well, or a 1-pointer. Kepa, I think you're probably looking at a 2-pointer because I think Southampton could score potentially with a new manager bounce. However, when Kepa keeps a clean sheet, it's usually at least a 9-pointer because he makes a lot of saves because Chelsea concede a lot of shots. And he's very good for bonus because a lot of the other Chelsea defenders and the other Chelsea players aren't necessarily great for bonus. So I feel like what I'm saying here is Ederson may be slightly more likely to keep a clean sheet. But Kepa's got such a high ceiling that Ederson doesn't, that for me, that's why I'm leaning towards Kepa at the moment. Also, it is a home fixture for Kepa as well. I do just worry if there's going to be a bit of a new manager bounce for Southampton, potentially just inject something into them that makes them a little bit better than they have been in recent weeks. The other reason that I'm maybe still considering starting Ederson is I do have Reece James in my starting 11. Now, I've said in the past, I don't think you should necessarily consider it a Chelsea double up. And you should look, who is the better keeper to start? Who's the better defender to start? And if James and Kepa, in their own right, are the best to start, then start them both and have the double up. So it could actually be a great strategy. If Chelsea keep a clean sheet, wonderful. Of course, if Chelsea concede, I've got the opposite issue that 2 of my defenders lose their clean sheet. So that's something to think about. Maybe diversify a little bit and go for Ederson. I am really happy to have Reece James. He's looking pretty fit, to be honest, and he doesn't look like he's struggling with his injury at all. And I think that James will continue to get over 60 minutes, hopefully. It doesn't look like he's going to be subbed off like 55 minutes every game. I think he played up to, if not 90 minutes in the most recent game. So good to see James getting minutes. I'm happy to have him. If we're on a wild card now, I'd be tempted to pick him as well because, again, as I discussed earlier on in the week, Chelsea playing both game week 25 and 28, and there's a good chance they'll double in 29 as well. So I feel like Chelsea players now might be the time to jump on him. It's why I'm considering the likes of Felix in attack as well. I've got Luke Shaw as one of my other defenders. Leicester at home. I am potentially looking at selling Luke Shaw in game week 25, but I don't need to. Because at the moment, I've got 3 players that blank in game week 25. I could just bench all of them, so I don't need to sell Luke Shaw. And he's actually got an okay fixture in 26 and 27. The issue is that they're then likely to blank in 28, Manchester United. So I need to think about my chip strategy, which players I want to bring in. For now, Luke Shaw starts and stays in my team. Could potentially look to sell him in the coming weeks. The final spot for me is between Trippier and Kilman. I think for me, Kepa, Ederson, I'll decide. James and Shaw, I want to start. I feel like they're very good for bonus points. They've got attacking threat unless Shaw plays centre-back. But when Shaw's at left-back, they've both got attacking threat. And I think they've both got good chances of clean sheets this week. Trippier's a difficult one because I don't think Liverpool attack have been great. And Newcastle defence is fantastic, especially at home. I just feel like there could be goals there. And that's more of a gut feeling than necessarily what the data suggests. The data suggests that Newcastle are great at home and that Liverpool have dropped off slightly post-World Cup in their attacking data. And across the season, whilst they have been good, they're still only like the 3rd or 4th best attack. So it's not like the Liverpool have passed where they are just getting so many chances. And Darwin and Salah haven't been converting that much recently. So I think there are a number of reasons to think that Trippier could get a clean sheet. And we know if he does, he's probably walking away with a 9-pointer. And the Newcastle defence is very highly owned and it is damaging to your rank if they do keep a clean sheet. But I'm almost seeing that more as an opportunity that everyone's probably going to have Trippier in their defence, or most people will. Some people will maybe have the double up against Liverpool. Could Kilman against Bournemouth outscore Trippier? Potentially. The reason that I've got Trippier in the starting 11 still is a similar situation to what I said with Kepa versus Ederson. Trippier, I think, is maybe slightly less likely, maybe even quite a bit less likely to keep a clean sheet than Kilman. Kilman's got the best fixture in the Premier League, Bournemouth at home. However, Trippier is great for bonus points and he has attacking threat, whereas Kilman is okay-ish for bonus points. Doesn't carry that much attacking threat. And so with Kilman, what you're probably looking at is a 6 or 7 pointer. With Trippier, you're probably looking at between 9 and 12 points. That's what we've seen recently when he keeps a clean sheet. Great for bonus points and the potential for some attacking returns as well. So I feel like that Trippier's just got the higher ceiling there. And if I'm not entirely sure which one to start, maybe it makes sense to start the one with the slightly higher ceiling. So let me know, which of those 4 defenders would you bench? You have to bench one of James, Trippier, Shaw, Kilman. At the moment, Kilman's on the bench just because I think he's probably 6-pointer at most. And if I bench 6 points, it's not a huge issue. My 5th defender is Castagna, as you can see. No intention of starting him. He did get an assist, actually, in Game Week 23, which we didn't discuss. But Manchester United away is not a great fixture. I'd expect Man United to score. So that's the way the defence looks. Let's move on to the midfield. This is going to be very, very quick and straightforward. I've got Ødegaard and Saka. I do think they are probably the 2 best Arsenal assets to own at the moment. I'll be keeping them for the foreseeable future. Even if I wildcard in Game Week 27, which is a possibility we'll discuss in future weeks, I'll probably still keep Ødegaard and Saka, or at least keep one of them. Saka at the moment just looks unbelievable. His data's still not exceptional, but passing the eye test, we know for a fact he's on penalties now. He took a penalty when Jorginho was on the pitch, which is great to know. Dispatched of it confidently. He is just a player that is in a hot streak at the moment, and he's been playing well all season. And maybe I underestimated him just because the data wasn't perfect. And this is when sometimes you have to use a little bit of context and common sense with the data. Saka is converting. Saka is playing well. He's on set pieces. He's on pens. He's nailed. He still might not fully be worth the price tag of sort of 8.3, 8.4, but I'm not going to complain. Saka will be staying. And Ødegaard's a similar one. I don't necessarily think Ødegaard's a perfect option, but he's nailed on in that Arsenal team. They've got great fixtures. They've got no blanks coming up. Ødegaard will be staying too. I do think Aston Villa away might be a tricky fixture. I'm not expecting tons of goals for Arsenal. And as someone with an Arsenal triple up in the attack, I'm not particularly delighted about that. But there's no chance of me benching any of them. And I'm just going to hope that they can grab 2 or 3 goals. And hopefully there's a combination of a Saka assist and Nketiah goal, or Ødegaard assist, Saka goal, something like that. The other 2, Rashford, interestingly, I do think is a really good captaincy shout this week. The reason I say that is there's a small chance, we'll discuss in a second, that Haaland could see some limited minutes in the lead up to the Champions League. Also, it is away at the City ground, and we've spoken about the fact that Nottingham Forest are really good defensively at home. And also, Rashford's just continuing to score goals. He scored something like 14 goals in the last 16 games. He's so good at home. We know that as well. He loves playing at Old Trafford. Leicester are leaking goals defensively as well. They don't look great, although they did put in a great performance against Spurs. I think this is a great fixture for Marcus Rashford. I think if you are hesitant on the Haaland captaincy, you want to go for someone slightly more differential, even though obviously he's very highly owned. I do really like Rashford as a captaincy option. For me, though, I'll probably still just back Haaland, vice-captain Rashford, but I do think it's worth considering this week, especially due to it being a home fixture. Then the 4th midfielder is the one that's most likely to be sold for me in the coming weeks, on the back of a 15-pointer nonetheless. De Bruyne. Now, I don't think he needs to be sold this week. I discussed it in my Game Week preview video. Yes, Forest are good at home. Yes, there is a chance that De Bruyne will be rested here. I just don't see the value in moving to Salah now, who is probably the player that will likely sell De Bruyne for, when Liverpool have Newcastle away. It's arguably, I was going to say arguably, it is a harder fixture than Nottingham Forest away. And whilst I do think that Salah is much more nailed for minutes, and he's got greater goal threat, and he's on penalties, there are multiple reasons to want him instead of De Bruyne. I don't think this is the week to do it. And anything could happen this week. Salah could pick up an injury. De Bruyne could look absolutely exceptional. I might say, do you know what? I want to try and find another way to get Salah into my team. I just feel like I'd like another week of information, the opportunity to do something else with my team if I want to, and just see what happens in Game Week 24 leading into 25. Because going into double Game Week 25, that's when you want Salah ahead of De Bruyne. I know De Bruyne's got Bournemouth in that week, but getting 2 fixtures for Salah, 180 minutes versus maybe 70, 80 minutes of De Bruyne is definitely worth it. I just don't think I'm going to do it this week. So I'm happy with the midfield. As you can see, the 5th midfielder, as has been all season as well, is Andreas. He's perfect. When you need him, he steps up. I'm hoping he'll step up in Game Week 25 because there's a very good chance I'll need him. But last week as well, a 6-pointer was great. If he can just do that when I need him, I absolutely love it. So that's the midfield. Let's move on to the 3 forwards. So we'll start with Haaland. Again, I do think there's justification to captain Rashford this week, but for me, Haaland will probably get the armband. I'm about 80% on Haaland at the moment. If there is any indication that Haaland is going to be rotated, of course, I will consider Rashford. And Rashford is probably my second favourite option here. You could go for someone like a Saka if you want to. I just think away from home at Villa, they've played a lot of fixtures recently. Arsenal, I think, have got 1 point in the last 9 in the Premier League. They're not necessarily in a hot streak. Yes, they're still playing well at points, but I think there are better weeks to probably look at. Maybe in Game Week 25, I may well captain someone like Saka, Nketiah, or Ødegaard. But for this week, if you don't captain Haaland, I think I like Rashford the most. I've also got Nketiah, like I said, the Arsenal triple attack. I am very happy to have this triple attack. I feel like that's where the points are with Arsenal. However, I do think that sooner rather than later, Nketiah could become an issue for one of two reasons. Gabriel Jesus coming back, but also a lot of Arsenal fans are calling for Nketiah to be dropped. Now, I'm surprised at this. I still think he looks great. I think in a similar way to Jesus, Nketiah does a lot off the ball that maybe some people don't realise or consider. But a lot of people are calling for maybe to try Martinelli up front and Trossard on the left. This is fan opinion. Arteta probably won't do it. But it is maybe a possibility that we might see a couple of earlier subs for Nketiah, pushing Martinelli up top and Trossard on the left, or potentially just having Trossard coming through the middle and keeping Martinelli on the left. So that's something to consider. Going into Game Week 25, if I'm looking to captain an Arsenal asset, it probably will be Saka or Odegaard, just for that reason that we don't entirely know that Nketiah will be 100% nailed, either because Jesus is coming back or because they might try something slightly different. If Nketiah continues to miss some big chances, and again, maybe I just don't watch enough of Arsenal. I don't watch every single game. A lot of Arsenal fans seem to think that Nketiah is the problem at the moment, which is interesting. If you're an Arsenal fan, let me know down below what you think. Maybe that's just a few minor opinions that I've seen on Twitter. And then the final one is Bamford. I'm not delighted about having Bamford in my team this week, and you could say there's justification to start Andreas or Kilman ahead of him and go to a 4-4-2 or a 3-5-2. I just think that Bamford is, as far as we know, still on penalties. He will probably get 60 minutes, and his data, again, is okay when he plays. The only slight worry I have is that he's been coming off around 60 minutes every game, and they don't have to start Bamford, and he hasn't looked that great. So there is a small chance he's benched. There's two things I could do. Like I said, I could just start Kilman or Andreas ahead if I want to. The other option I've got is I transfer him out this week for someone that I would like in Game Week 25. That man is Darwin. I can do Bamford to Darwin for 2.2 million. And if I'm going to make a move this week, it will be Bamford to Darwin. And I consider the pros and cons of this. The cons, Bamford has an easier fixture this week. Darwin's got Newcastle. It would probably mean me benching Trippier and just going all in on the fact that Liverpool will score and I play Kilman. So if I do Bamford to Darwin, it would be Darwin and Kilman versus Bamford and Trippier, basically the scores. I don't know if I need to do it this week, though. But again, if Bamford doesn't start, if Bamford only gets 60 and Darwin grabs a goal, I'm going to feel a bit annoyed that I didn't go a little bit aggressive and make the move this week. I just feel like there is value in waiting, because it might be that Bamford looks absolutely brilliant and I don't want to make the move. Or again, if Darwin picks up some sort of knock, then maybe I don't want to. And I still need to consider, with Jota and Firmino coming back and Diaz coming back in the future at some point, is Darwin going to get enough minutes? Or is it going to be Gakpo that starts most games and actually Darwin's the one being rotated with the likes of Jota and Firmino? So I feel like I'm still not 100% dead cert that Bamford to Darwin is going to happen. It might be that I do De Bruyne to Salah instead, and I actually want to do something like Bamford to Felix. Now, I could do Bamford to Felix this week, but because Chelsea don't double in 25 and they play against Spurs, I feel like that's quite a low upside move over the next few weeks. So these are all the things I'm considering about. Bamford probably was a bit of a mistake, but it was a fun transfer at the time, and I just wanted to have a bit of fun with FPL. But I am probably looking at Bamford to Darwin. I just don't know if it needs to be this week, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts below are on that. Do you think I should just get aggressive, do it now? And I probably will want him for Game Week 25 because of the double. So that's the team. I don't think it's in a bad position at all. I think the -8 sorted me out perfectly because it meant I got a green arrow in Game Week 23 and the team looks good moving forward. I'm really just eyeing up Game Week 25. And like I said, 4 teams blank, 4 teams double. At the moment, I've only got Trippier, Shaw, and Rashford as the 3 that blank. So if I just bring Castagna, Andreas, and Kilman into the starting 11, I've got 11 players to play. Obviously, Kilman has a double as well. That's why I brought Kilman in. Andreas has Wolves, which is a fine fixture. Looking into Game Week 25, I think Castagna's the only player that has a single fixture that I don't like, which is Arsenal away. So I'm probably looking at trying to bring in either one of or both of Salah and Darwin, and then maybe sorting out Castagna to someone like a Tarkowski. Other than that, the team's going to look really good going into Game Week 25. So those are my current plans. Probably 70% roller transfer, 25% Bamford to Darwin, let's say 5% Bamford to Felix. Let me know if you would do anything differently with my team, how you would approach Game Week 24, and let me know what some of your dilemmas are down below in the comments. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 24 team selection. Do let me know down below what your team's currently looking like. Are you rolling a transfer, or are you one of those that's getting a little bit more aggressive and making some transfers for this week going into Game Week 25? If you're enjoying the content here on this channel and you enjoyed today's video, please do drop a like, comment down below. Make sure to subscribe as well. Final notice, there will not be a deadline stream for Game Week 24 because I'm in London this weekend from sort of Friday evening, so I won't be able to stream. I think it's probably the best week to do it because most of us are probably looking at rolling, and the only major issues we've got are benching dilemmas. But I do apologize. I try not to miss streams, but I will be back for double game week 25, which will be the key one, a massive deadline stream. But I do apologize. No deadline stream from me. Go and watch the brilliant streams from the likes of Focal and Harry and Let's Talk FPL. There are tons of great content creators out there, but no stream for me. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.